Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to be discussing a route that you can take, or well, basically a way that you can farm, well, quite a few mounts. We're talking 17 mounts in total, simply by killing some rares and going to certain farming locations within Mists of Pandaria. So these will not require you to do any form of questing whatsoever. I'll be covering that in a separate video. This is simply just from rare hunts. Well, and okay, one quest line, but I want to point this one out purposefully. So this is obviously for the Cloud Serpents. You can start this quest line from the Arbitorium, and basically you just have to accept the quest Wild Things. This will send you to a little island, a little bit off the side of the coast, and you'll be able to do the starting quest line in obtaining your very first Cloud Serpent egg. Now this is restricted to one quest line per character, and there are 3 variations of the Cloud Serpent eggs to collect. So you're going to need to basically make sure that you do this quest line 3 times if you want each of these little Heavenly Serpent mounts. So it's pretty straightforward. You're going to choose which color egg you get, blue, green, or yellow, and once you get to that point you can accept the quest, and then it becomes a daily quest grind. So the reason why I want to point this out is because although I will be covering daily quest grinds for mounts and factions in Pandaria, I kinda just wanted to cover this section because it's always good to get an early start on these things. And the Heavenly Cloud Serpents are located in obviously the Jade Forest, and for me this area is generally one you're going to be coming back to quite frequently. So obviously the main goal is to always farm and make sure that you do the daily quests. Now these daily quests are pretty straightforward. Most of them are just to essentially take a look at completing quests that involve playing with your serpent, obviously doing some ball games with them. Generally nothing too wild. Most players shouldn't really have an outward problem with this. Obviously some of you may not enjoy these daily grinds, but this one is pretty simple. As your serpent continues to age up, as your rep goes up, you will be able to do more quests with your serpent, which includes things like racing through rings, an early iteration of dragonflight races, and basically from there. Now, you will need to speak to Elder Anil, and she will talk to you about basically the process of doing your daily quests. You will also be able to accept your daily quests from her every single day. You can also take daily quests from the actual serpent themselves, and they'll be in this little pen to the left hand side of you here. You can do all of these daily quests, and these will increase your reputation with the faction of the Cloud Serpent, and you will be able to eventually get your hands on the mount, which will be a reward for completing the quest line. Now obviously, if you are wondering, for your alts, you can buy an item that will increase the rate at which your Cloud Serpent will, or your rep with the Cloud Serpent faction will increase. So pretty good stuff, and yeah, basically you can grab your hands on a whole bunch of mounts. So really cool stuff, and very, very simple. So I just wanted to point out the Cloud Serpents. That is 3 easy to get mounts, pretty cool looking mounts still as well, quite aesthetically pleasing, but beyond that as well are also the recipes for the Jade Panthers. Now the Jade Panthers require a bit of crafting know-how and quite a lot of farming for them, but you know, they are incredibly good, and since you have their reputation already done, you might as well get on the path of making the Jade Panthers as well, although that is of course an entirely different story in terms of grinding and farming their materials. But there's 4 Jade Panthers, and all of them look really cool, and they're all Really, really top notch. In fact, they're so cool that you can still sell them on the auction house for quite a fair chunk of change. So don't skimp out on this, especially if you're someone who's looking to make money. The Jade Panthers are incredibly awesome to get. They do require some grinding, but they are really cool. Plus, you can roleplay the Power Rangers or cosplay the Power Rangers if you want to. So beyond that, the next phase is farming rares. So let's talk about this. There's two kinds of rares you'll find throughout the world. So firstly, in a non-set location, but near the Warbringer rares that I'll be pointing out to you, you can find War Scouts. So you get two kinds. You get Zandalari War Scouts and Zandalari Warbringers. Zandalari Warbringers have the chance at dropping a mount, whereas the Zandalari War Scouts only drop rep tokens. Now these rep tokens are important because we're going to be using these rep tokens to max out reputation with 4 reps within the Pandarian factions, and those are the Shado-Pans, the August Celestials, the Golden Lotus, and the Klaxi. Now, while you are hunting for the Warbringers, keep your eyes out for these War Scouts, especially since the War Scouts generally are ignored by players. They're a great way to increase your rep, and you can grab a couple tokens from them. So even though they don't drop a mount, finding them and killing them, pretty much still worth it, especially since they give you a decent chunk of rep by dropping the tokens. Now the Warbringers, you can see the location in the top center of the map. This is for the Krasarang Wilds, but the Warbringers can drop 3 mounts, which I'll be showing you at the end of the video, 3 different variations of the Direhorn mount, as well as dropping satchels that will drop materials, which are great if you're looking at crafting those aforementioned Jade Panthers, but also they will drop the tokens, and they generally drop quite a few tokens. So I'm showing you all of the locations. There's one in each major section, well, most of them. There's one in the Jade Forest, where I'm showing you now. There's one previously in the Krasarang Wilds, which you saw me showcase you. There is one here, where in this region, I can now no longer remember, which does sometimes happen. I do apologize. I forget the provinces. I believe this is the top section here, Kunlai Summit. So you can see the location there. Of course, fantastic. Then we are in Townlong Steps over here, where you can find again another rare, which all have a chance of dropping. Now the mount drop is only 4.5% unless rare them, so it can be quite a grind. I've managed to pick up one of them so far, but it's around 4% the drop rate for these mounts. Not to mention you get the nice mats, which is cool, but the big thing is the rep tokens. Now while you're busy farming for these, you might find that a lot of them are killed already. Just come back later. They're on like a 2 to 3 hour respawn timer, so just come back a little bit later. You should be able to find them. They're not farmed too religiously. Now, of the 4 factions, you have some nice mounts. You have one from the Klaxi, which is the Reigns of the Amber Scorpion, basically. It's a dire claw, but it's a scorpion. It's a pretty cool mount. Obviously, it is ground-centered, but it's a nice little insect mount for those of you who are that way inclined. And you can get this from the Klaxi, obviously, where I show you on the map. Then you have the next faction, which is by Shrine of the Two Moons, and there's 2 factions you can find here, but the first of which is the August Celestials, that require no prerequisites to unlock, and they will drop the Reigns of the Thundering August Cloud Serpent. Again, a pretty cool mount that does not require a lot of farming, so really, really awesome. Probably one of the cooler mounts, obviously the Serpent mounts, but with a thundering effect, which, if we can all admit, looks pretty damn rad. I am sure most of us will agree. So, obviously the Thundering Cloud Serpent from the August Celestials. We then have the Shado-Pan, which can be located at the Shado-Pan Garrison, a location where we'll find a important NPC for later on, but there are 3 Shado-Pan tigers that you can get here, all being various color variations, or different color variations of the same mount, but all pretty cool nonetheless. Obviously, for those of you who are that way inclined to wearing armored tigers, I think you'll probably like these. I still think they look pretty good. In fact, I think all the Pandarian mounts still look relatively quite good. And then finally, last but not least, is the Golden Lotus. Now, the Golden Lotus will require you to do a quest line. You'll have to start the Golden Lotus quest line within the Golden Terrace. It's not too long. You basically just have to do a little bit of questing in this region, and you'll be able to unlock their faction vendor at the Golden Pagoda. Now, obviously, once you've unlocked them, you will be able to buy those 3 cranes, who are very similar to the tigers in that they are all color variations. It honestly isn't that big a deal. You can start the quest line at the Golden Stairs, or at the Shrine of the Two Moons, or at the Golden Pagoda. Either way, you can start the quest line quite easily. Now let's talk about farmable rares. So there are 3 farmable rares that I want to point out that are on quite big, extensive time accounts. Now the one you'll come across the most is Nalak, who is at the Thundering Terrace. To get there, you need to speak to the NPC I've shown you for the Horde. For the Alliance, it will be the same NPC but on the other side near their camp. And then you will get taken on a short quest to the Thundering Isles. You will be placed on a ship for Horde or Alliance, and you can take the teleporter to the Courtyard of Bones, as you see me doing here. And you will run all the way up to the giant world marker that will show Nalak the Dragon. Now, Nalak is quite common. I think most people don't like to go to the Thundering Isles because it is a bit of an admin to get there. Although, it's a real shame because Nalak drops a fantastic mount, one I'll also show you at the end of the video, called the Cobalt Thundering Serpent. And he's a very, very cool mount. Now, Nalak is on a very, very long spawn timer, and you can only attempt to kill him once per week, I believe, as you need to get the Storm Touched cash, and this is a 1% drop rate, so very, very low indeed. In fact, incredibly low indeed. But just look at this mount. It is an incredible mount, very similar to the Thundering August Celestial, but still incredibly cool nonetheless. Now, another mount you will find, or another rare you'll find, is Galleon. Now, Galleon is also a mount that has a relatively low drop rate for the Son of Galleon, and Galleon is also on a very, very similar timer. Basically, Galleon is another world rare. All of these are world rares, so you are going to find them to be on the similar timer, and Galleon will drop the Son of Galleon mount, who is again at a 1%-ish drop rate. So you need to keep your eyes out on these ones. If you don't find them during your run, you can just leave them for later. Honestly, you need to probably leave an ult here if you want to regularly farm these units, and you're going to need to keep a timer. Similarly with the Shah of Anger, which unfortunately I was not able to grab footage of because this one is heavily farmed, because of course it drops the King of all King Cloud Serpent mounts, the Onyx Heavenly Cloud Serpent, which is just fantastic. So the Onyx Heavenly Cloud Serpent is obviously the king of kings when it comes to Heavenly Cloud Serpents, because he's a bit edgy and he's a bit cool. Kind of looks like Dark Shenron, I guess. So Shah of Anger is also heavily farmed, and the drop rate as well is around 1%. So that kind of covers it for all of the mounts. The Amber Primordial Direhorns, the Jade Primordial Direhorn, and the Slate Primordial Direhorn. All of them from the Zandalari Warbringers are 4.5%. So in total, that gives you over 20, almost 25 mounts for you to farm from just killing rares in Pandaria and doing the Cloud Serpent quest lines. A very, 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 very nice grind to do. Honestly, it will take you a while. What I suggest is simply choosing a time every day to go and find the rares. It takes around 30 minutes to fly around the map with max flying, and you basically collect what you can and then come back the next day. It will take you a couple weeks, but it'll be worth it once you get to the end. But that's basically going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Till then, bye.